Welcome back to Flow State, my new experimental podcast that I'm filming for some reason. Honestly, I don't really have any other outlet to do this. I looked into having a podcast and using like a podcast app or service. And dude, it sounds like so many fucking hoops to jump through. It's shit I have no idea how to do it. It seems so fucking complicated. Like RSS feeds and subscriptions to like a host and submitting forms to all the different fucking companies and creating accounts on every fucking platform. It sounds like a fucking nightmare. For someone like me that's dumb, I could barely do this. This setup right here that we're doing. It's like almost 8 p.m. I have spent the entire fucking day trying to make this work. My face in a camera with a microphone. Which, you know, I've done on many of my videos. But like every day there's some new fucking problem. Every day there's something I gotta tweak. Because like I'm still getting plosives in the mic. The light still doesn't look right. The camera's still not right. And it was just, and then you can hear these sounds. I talked about this in my first pilot episode. I want to create like some unique standalone little sounds and atmosphere from scratch. I'm thinking maybe I'll do it for every episode, but we'll see. You never know. Like there might be a day where I'm like, I want to talk about something. I don't have time to sit down for fucking hours first to build this thing from scratch. I want to get going. But my current plan is to do that. That's what I did today. And it took like a couple hours, dude, because you just get lost in it. And I wanted to try to set it up to show it. I've got like a 12 or 13-year-old GoPro. This sucks. GoPros, by the way, my experience with GoPros is they're fucking trash. They suck, dude. Every little part, everything about them is proprietary. So they're not compatible with like any other fucking camera equipment, any other kind of tripod or mounting bracket. You got to buy all this specialized shit to use the fucking thing. And this one here, it's older. Maybe the new ones are easier to use. But I had a miserable time with this fucking little bastard. So I have this little GoPro and like trying to use it, just getting it in the bracket to set it up was like a nightmare. And I ended up smashing my thumb and I have this fucking cut in my thumb now on my knuckle and it hurts. But I wanted to try to film it in some way just so like you could see what the hell I'm talking about. It's so frustrating when I'm trying to explain something or show something, but I can't actually show it. It's off camera. I can't pick this camera up and move it because then it breaks my setup that took me 4 fucking days to get working. It's not that easy to just move the thing. You would see me, I would then be like the next hour of this video would be me trying to put everything back and move all the cables and get the lens right again and readjust the camera and get the focus, and then something would probably break and I'd have to shut it off and redo everything. So we're not doing that. But I have this shitty, and keep in mind it's this garbage GoPro, and it's like a fisheye view. It's got that shitty fisheye curved lens. So it's going to look like trash. But I have it over here just so I can try to so you can see what I'm talking about. Right here. That's what's making the sound we hear. I just created this little patch and it took me like half the fucking day because I was experimenting, you know? I was experimenting with it. And I was trying to get a sound that was like not too overwhelming. I didn't want it to be like blowing out the speakers. I didn't want it to sound like all distorted, and that's what I came up with. I didn't want it too intense. And I turned the volume down on it quite a bit too. You know, I was playing around. I have a couple plugins. I've mentioned it before. My audio interface has plugins built into it. It's got like an EQ and a compressor and a noise gate and a limiter. And I was fucking around with some of that stuff. And you know what? I'm going to open that mixer up to show you what I mean. So you can hear what I'm talking about. I can turn the volume up on this. I'm going to do that just so you can hear what I'm talking about. And then I went in and I added some EQ. I boosted the low end and the mid range, which I'm doing now. And then I added a compressor with some output gain after like makeup gain, which I've got on now. You know, like the low, like that little kick drum sound is a little more intense. It sounds louder, really. But like, I like playing around with this stuff. I'll just get lost in there, making these little tweaks and adjustments, and like hours will go by. And then if I turn off the compressor and EQ, right, it doesn't sound quite as intense now. I'll turn it back down. Right about there, I think is good. Maybe I'll go over to that later. I made this other little scene where I put it there, but I don't like how that looks. It looks fucking dumb. It looks dumb. Yeah, it looks really stupid. I'm gonna go back to that. We might go over there and fuck around with it in a little bit. We'll see. I don't know. What I have, because I wanted to do something. I wanted to talk about something. And I'm like, but what am I going to talk about? Like, I could just ramble on about shit. But that would end up being like a shitty video. A shitty podcast. So I have a book here. And I'm like, you know what? It's kind of interesting. I remember liking this book. I'll read like a short little chapter from it. It'll be like maybe food for thought, you know, just like an interesting topic. And then if people were interested in it, they could look the book up themselves and buy it. I'm not like hardcore into this stuff. You know, it took me a while to read it because I would get bored. I don't like reading. Like, I don't like reading for a long time. After like a page or two, it's like, okay, I'm done now. I'm bored. I need something else to do. And I have an issue with writers. I like facts. I want like a list of stats presented to me. I don't want this like word salad nonsense all the time. Anyway, the book I have here, I just picked it off my shelf because it seemed like the kind of thing that made sense for this format and for this, like the type of content I plan on doing here. It's called Biocentrism by Robert Lanza, MD. Original and exciting is one of the quotes. It says, how life and consciousness are the keys to understanding the true nature of the universe. It's not an extremely long book. You know, you can see it's not all that thick. Let me see. If we go all the way to the last page, it's like 212 pages. It's not that long. And, you know, the text is fairly large. It has graphs and diagrams. And if we take a look here, like they have a diagram in here on, what is that called? I should know that. Hold on. Damn it. It's that experiment where the double slit experiment, where you shoot photons through this like double slit and it creates like a wave pattern. And it was like believed that photons of light, like a particle, like basically that light can be both like a particle and a wave at the same time or something. And I could have sworn, I feel like I heard recently that like, maybe that's not true. Maybe we fucked up the test and we misread it. We misunderstood it. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but there's like a whole section on it. I thought I would just read a short little chapter here to give people an idea of what kind of book this is. And it's interesting, right? Like this is mostly like, it's a theory. It's someone's belief system based partially on science, but also probably just on fantasy. Because like, this isn't like this is actually all of like reality. This is the truth of how the world functions or whatever. It's someone feels strongly about this and they have science to back it up. An educated person with a lot of experience feels that this could be part of like some of the missing pieces to the puzzle of understanding how the world works, understanding reality. And it's interesting, right? I like reading things like this when I have the patience to do so. And this was a book I probably picked up during the pandemic. I read a few books during the pandemic. My interests started to broaden because suddenly I had time. And I mentioned this in my first pilot episode, that we had this like moment of clarity that was given to us briefly during the pandemic, where suddenly, like, I feel, at least for me personally, I was able to have that like clarity and also time to pursue things in my life that I never had a chance to pursue. Because I think for a lot of people, they either lost their job or they suddenly had a lot of extra time on their hands because they were working from home. And when you're working from home, it's not the same as being stuck in some shit ass office like you're in a classroom. And you've got some extra time to work on various personal interests or projects. And that's one of the things I did. I read some books, I made jewelry, I got into photography, I started working on music, like these sounds that I've got here, like I learned how to do all that and bought this equipment during that time. And it became like these passion projects, and realizing a desire or an idea that I had many years ago, like back in like 2007 or 2008, I wanted to make sounds. I wanted to make electronic sounds. I wanted to learn how to do that stuff. And I didn't know how. And I bought a few things to try and accomplish that. And I couldn't figure it out. I had no reference, no frame of reference to understanding even the most basic concepts like an EQ. I didn't know what an EQ was. I didn't understand how you used it and why you would use it. And so like even the most basic tools were like impenetrable to me because I had no frame of reference. And everything, it was like, it's like picking up a book. If you don't speak a certain language, like if you speak English and then you pick up a book written in fucking Chinese or something, you're not gonna be able to understand anything you're looking at. It's gonna just look like alien text. It's gonna be impossible, impenetrable. That's how it was for me back then. But during that like moment of clarity during the pandemic, I was able to overcome those obstacles and challenges that were previously like impenetrable and seemingly impossible. To me, it was a gift that happened. Anyway, let's try to read. I'm going to try to stumble through this first. It's a short chapter. It's only a few pages. It's like 3 pages front and back. And I'm probably going to like struggle to pronounce words, and it's going to sound like shit, and I'm going to end up fucking deleting this video. But let's try. It's chapter 3. The sound of a falling tree. Who hasn't considered, or at least heard the old question, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody is there, does it make a sound? If we conduct a quick survey of friends and family, we shall find that the vast majority of people answer decisively in the affirmative. Of course a falling tree makes a sound. Someone recently replied with a touch of pique, as if this were a question too dumb to merit a moment's contemplation. By taking this stance, what people are actually averring, I think that's how you say it, is their belief in an objective, independent reality. Obviously, the prevailing mindset is of a universe that exists just as well without us as with us. This fits in tidily with the Western view, held at least since biblical times, that little me is of small importance or consequence in the cosmos. If you consider, or perhaps have sufficient science background for, a realistic sonic appraisal of what actually occurs when that tree falls in the woods. What is the process that produces sound? So, if the reader will forgive a quick return to 5th grade earth science, here's a quick summary. Sound is created by disturbance in some medium, usually air, although sound travels even faster and more efficiently through denser materials, such as water or steel. Limbs, branches, and trunks violently striking the ground create rapid pulses of air. A deaf person can readily feel some of these pulsations. They are particularly blatant on the skin when the pulses repeat with a frequency of 5 to 30 times a second. So what we have in hand with the tumbling tree, in actuality, are rapid air pressure variations, which spread out by traveling through the surrounding medium at around 750 miles per hour. As they do so, they lose their coherency until the background evenness of the air is reestablished. This, according to simple science, is what occurs even when a brain-ear mechanism is absent. A series of greater and lesser air pressure passages. Tiny, rapid puffs of wind. There is no sound attached to them. Now, let's lend an ear to the scene. If someone is nearby, the air puffs physically cause the ear's tympanic membrane, eardrum, to vibrate, and then stimulates nerves only if the air is pulsating between 20 and 20,000 times a second, with an upper limit more like 10,000 for people over 40, and even less for those of us who misspent youth included ear-splitting rock concerts. Air that puffs 15 times a second is not intrinsically different from air that puffs 30 times. Yet, the former will never result in a human perception of sound because of the design of our neural architecture. In any case, nerves stimulated by the moving eardrum send electrical signals to a section of the brain, resulting in the cognition of noise. Of a noise, rather. This experience, then, is inarguably symbiotic. The pulses of air, by themselves, do not constitute any sort of sound, which is obvious because 15 pulse air puffs remain silent no matter how many ears are present. Only when a specific range of pulses are present is the ear's neural architecture designed to let human consciousness conjure the noise experience. In short, an observer, an ear, and a brain are every bit as necessary for the experience of sound as are the air pulses. The external world and consciousness are correlative. And a tree that falls in an empty forest creates only silent air pulses, tiny puffs of wind. When someone dismissively answers, "Of course a tree makes a sound if no one's nearby," they are merely demonstrating their inability to ponder an event nobody attended. They're finding it too difficult to take themselves out of the equation. They somehow continue to imagine themselves present when they are absent. Now, consider a lit candle placed on a table in that same empty forest. This is not an advisable setup, but let's pretend that Smokey the Bear is supervising the whole thing with an extinguisher at the ready. While we consider whether the flame has intrinsic brightness and a yellow color when no one's watching. I feel like I need to repeat that part. While we consider whether the flame has intrinsic brightness and a yellow color when no one is watching, even if we contradict quantum experiments and allow that electrons and all other particles have assumed actual positions in the absence of observers, much more on this later, the flame is still merely a hot gas. Like any sort of light, it emits photons or tiny packets of waves of electromagnetic energy. Each consists of electrical and magnetic pulses. These momentary exhibitions of electricity and magnetism are the whole show. The nature of light itself. It is easy to recall from everyday experience that neither Let me read to that. It is easy to recall from everyday experience that neither electricity nor magnetism have visual properties. So, on its own, it's not hard to grasp that there is nothing inherently visual, nothing bright or colored about that candle flame. Now, let these same invisible electromagnetic waves strike a human retina, and if, and only if, the length from crest to crest... Oh, I skipped a line. Damn it. It's hard for me to keep my place. We'll start over. From the beginning. Now, let these same invisible electromagnetic waves strike a human retina. And if and only if the waves each happen to measure between 400 and 700 nanometers in length from crest to crest, then their energy is just right to deliver a stimulus to the 8 million cone-shaped cells in the retina. Each in turn sends an electrical pulse to a neighbor neuron. And on up the line this goes at 250 miles per hour until it reaches the warm, wet, occipital lobe of the brain in the back of the head. There, a cascading complex of neurons fire from the incoming stimuli. And when we subjectively perceive this experience as a yellow brightness occurring in a place we have been conditioned to call the external world, other creatures receiving the identical stimulus will experience something altogether different, such as a perception of gray or even have an entirely dissimilar sensation. The point is, there isn't a bright yellow light at all. At most, there is an invisible stream of electrical and magnetic pulses. We are totally necessary for the experience of what we'd call a yellow flame. Again, it's correlated. But what about if you touch something? Isn't it solid? Push on the trunk of the fallen tree and you feel pressure. But this too is a sensation strictly inside your brain and only projected to your fingers, whose existence also lies within the mind. Moreover, that sensation of pressure is caused not by any contact with a solid, but by the fact that every atom has negatively charged electrons in its outer shells. As we all know, charges of the same type repel each other. So, the bark's electrons repel yours. And you feel this electrical repulsive force stopping your finger from penetrating any further. Nothing solid ever meets any other solid when you push on the tree. The atoms in your fingers are each as empty as a vacant football stadium in which a single fly sits on the 50-yard line. If we needed solids to stop us rather than energy fields, our fingers could easily penetrate the tree as if we were swiping at fog. Consider an even more intuitive example: rainbows. The sudden appearance of those prismatic colors juxtaposed between mountains can take our breath away. But the truth is we are absolutely necessary for the rainbow's existence. When nobody's there simply is no rainbow. Oh, not that again, you might be thinking. But hang in there. This time it's more obvious than ever. 3 components are necessary for a rainbow. There must be sun, there must be raindrops, and there must be a conscious eye, or its surrogate, film, at the correct geometric location. If your eyes look directly opposite the sun, that is, at the anti-solar point, which is always marked by the shadow of your head, the sunlit water droplets will produce a rainbow that surrounds that precise spot at a distance of 42 degrees. But your eyes must be located at that spot where the refracted light from the sunlit droplets converges to complete the required geometry. A person next to you will complete his or her own geometry and will be at the apex of a cone for an entirely different set of droplets, and will therefore see a separate rainbow. Their rainbow is very likely to look like yours, but it needn't be so. the droplets their eyes intercept may be of a different size, and larger droplets make for a more vivid rainbow while at the same time robbing it of blue. Then too, if the sunlit droplets are very nearby, as from a lawn sprinkler, the person nearby may not see a rainbow at all. Your rainbow is yours alone. But now we get to our point. What if no one's there? Answer: no rainbow. And eye-brain system, or its surrogate, a camera, whose results will only be viewed later by a conscious observer, must be present to complete the geometry. As real as the rainbow looks, it requires your presence just as much as it requires sun and rain. In the absence of anyone or any animal, it is easy to see that no rainbow is present. Or, if you prefer, there are countless trillions of potential rainbows, each one blurrily offset from the next by the minutest margin. None of this is speculative or philosophical. It's the basic science that would be encountered in any grade school earth science class. Few would dispute the subjective nature of rainbows, which figure so prominently in fairy tales that they seem only marginally to belong to our world in the first place. It is when we fully grasp that the sight of a skyscraper is just as dependent on the observer that we have made the first required leap to the true nature of things. This leads us to the first principle of biocentrism. First principle of biocentrism. What we perceive as reality is a process that involves our consciousness. And that's chapter 3. That's all I wanted to read here. If I go any farther, I'm going to have trouble reading it. I keep losing my place, and, well, I don't want to read the whole book either. It'll probably get blocked on YouTube. But this could be something, that some people might find interesting. And then you could seek it out yourselves. I think I bought this on Amazon. It wasn't expensive. It's like a flimsy paperback. They're usually pretty cheap. I thought it would be something interesting. I have a handful of books, and some of those books are fantasy books from when I was a lot younger. And I was like, maybe I'll read part of one of those too, but I'm like, I don't know, it would be weird to read. You could argue this is also a fantasy book, because this guy here, Robert Lanza, he's obviously an intelligent person, and he's got science backing up some of his theories and claims. But still, right? It's all speculative at the end of the day. There's no, I don't believe there's any hard proof at the end of the book that this is 100% real. It's likely partially it kind of goes along with what I was trying to say in my first video. At the end of the day, nobody really knows anything. This is fucking true, dude. You can work really hard pursuing a goal and sticking to hard rules to try and keep yourself from straying into fantasy land, essentially. But even then, no one really knows. They just, so far, these hard rules they follow in rigorous science, it seems to be true. It seems truthful because it hasn't let us down yet. But you're always seeing some. If you just look back at the past, you can see this pattern where it was oh, we were wrong. We were wrong about that. and like the textbooks change, and like the rules change, and the story changes, and that seems to be happening throughout history. And we're probably in a very similar phase of that now, where maybe we're getting a better idea of what we think is true, and then we'll find out. I mean, imagine in our infancy as people, as living beings, that we're like this close to like unlocking all of the secrets. But then imagine if we evolved for another 10 million years. Are you going to tell me we would barely learn anything else in 10 million more years? Like basically we got it all figured out now? That's unlikely. It's highly unlikely. And I think as we change and as we evolve, like our perceptions change too. And the way we think about things and the way we perceive things changes. And then like it's like the rules change again because of that, I would imagine, which almost makes it seem like impossible. Unless I don't know. I'm not smart enough to talk about this at a high level. But I feel like if you didn't advance and we stayed stagnated in this current state we're in now, like perpetually, and then we just began trying to solve these puzzles from this fixed point of view, it still wouldn't be true. Like it would seem true to us at this point, this like unmoving point in our like evolution. But because like it's just natural, like it happens as we grow and evolve and change through time. I feel like the way we look at things, the way we think about things will also change. And we might start to develop new forms of like sensation or something. Who knows? But anyway, I thought it would be kind of neat to start off just reading a little bit from a book. I had this idea a while ago, a couple of years ago, really, to like read some books on a few years ago, I wanted to create a YouTube channel and read books. I thought it would be kind of neat. But then I started thinking about it and I'm like, I probably can't do that. It's probably illegal to sit down and read like a whole book, because like that's the kind of thing you would go to Audible and you would listen to an audiobook, but like that has to be licensed and everything, right? And so I probably can't do that legally unless it was some kind of like old book that's no longer, I don't know what that word is, like it's no longer bound by those rules of the law. But maybe reading like a chapter from a book, because I feel like that it gets you a taste of something and then it could lead you into buying the book, So I'm hoping there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's like, here's a little sample of something that could potentially be interesting, and then you can go check it out if you're interested. And now there's potential for sales for some book that came out years ago that normally there wouldn't be. I don't have a whole lot of books though. I have a small bookshelf in the other room, and some of them I haven't even read. Like I've got some Roger Penrose books that I've wanted to read and then I just never got around to it. And every time I think about it, I'm like, I don't feel like reading it. I don't feel like it. Like I was saying too, I like facts presented to me. I want like a spec sheet and that's it. I want like a reality spec sheet. And then that's the end. I like the idea, I'll be honest. I'm kind of on board. Despite I'm a person and I'm conflicted, and I feel like most people are conflicted with their worldviews and how they feel about things. And so like while I like independence and freedom. I also like the idea of a future that's kind of like the Borg from Star Trek, where there's like one collective consciousness and like an entire civilization is basically kind of like one being, essentially. I kind of like this idea of like floating through space on some advanced spacecraft, and like the whole crew are these Borg-like beings, and we all share like this conscious state with each other. We're all like connected, and we're all pursuing a goal together, and we don't have that same feeling that we have now. It's like, it's so efficient. They all seem to really care about each other and work together and pursue goals together, and they're very successful at doing so. And it doesn't feel like they're not pursuing things like people do, with like purely the goal of like greed for oneself. They're always working towards creating like more advanced technologies to like go farther and create larger structures, and gathering resources to make that possible. Honestly, I don't know a whole lot about Star Trek, so I don't even know like what their true goal is. I don't know if that's something they ever explain in Star Trek. Like what is their pursuit other than like sustaining themselves? But they seem to be constantly attempting to travel farther into space and create larger structures. And you know, when they do it, it seems really destructive, because they'll like attack a world and assimilate people. They're gathering resources, but those people that get assimilated, it seems horrible, but like once they're assimilated, they're part of the collective now. It's like you're part of the family. It's not that much different than working for like a large corporation, except the Borg care more about you than a large corporation. The Borg don't fire you after. They don't shit can you. They don't lie to you. They don't disrespect you. They value you, and they give you the tools for success. It's like all the things you don't get working for a large corporation, you know? And those people are working, ultimately, it's not like everyone working to strengthen the whole. It's really everybody working to strengthen the few at the top. And they will destroy you at a moment's notice. You could say like, oh, well, the Borg destroy each other sometimes because like they'll sacrifice themselves in combat or whatever. And that's different. Dude, they're like protecting themselves, and sometimes they get picked off by the Federation or something. I don't know. I feel like part of me feels like that is like the desirable outcome for humanity. I played this game years ago, Deus Ex 2, I think. I don't, Invisible War. I think it was called Deus Ex Invisible War. I played it on the Xbox, the original Xbox. And there was multiple endings in that game. And I chose the ending where you basically turn everybody on the planet into like a collective consciousness. Basically like the Borg. That was one of the endings. You could do that. There was some kind of satellite or something, or some kind of tower where you could send out a signal, and it would basically transform the entire world population into this like one collective conscious mind. I think that's what it was. And that's the one I went with. I was like, dude, all these endings kind of suck. And this one seems like the most beneficial to ensuring that we continue in this world. You know, when you look at the shit that goes on around the world, and you see, like, oftentimes it's to benefit like one person or a small group of elites, and that's it. And the rest of the world kind of burns because of it. And you see companies like Nvidia amassing like this massive wealth You see these scumbags like fucking SK Hynix and Samsung and what's that other one? Micron. You see these cocksuckers like amassing such massive wealth by screwing us over, by fucking us over. I was thinking last night, I took a bath last night, and when I lay there, my mind starts to wander. And I started thinking, and it's purely speculative, but it seems likely. Like, I feel like this is likely to happen. I was thinking about this whole, like, sort of crisis that's going on with technology and with components, silicon, that's affecting, memory production, storage, like the tools and the technologies that we have come to rely on as a society, like worldwide. The way our world functions now, we rely on electronics, and that starts with like silicon. And all of these products are based on it. And some of the biggest shortages, right? Like storage and memory. And it's a huge problem. I'm sure most people are aware of it now because it's all over the news all the time. And not only is there a shortage, but the prices it's basically unobtainable now for the average person to buy memory or a hard drive or an SSD or a computer or a game console. All of these devices, and it's affecting everything. Like even a modern appliance in your kitchen. A lot of those modern appliances now have electronics in them. They're not just an analog device any longer. And those electronics now are costing more money to produce. And so now the cost of those products are more expensive. Even buying like a refrigerator or fucking toaster or a microwave or something is likely costing a lot more than it did a few years ago. But especially if you're looking to put together a computer or buy a computer or video game related stuff, that stuff's all so fucking expensive. It's silly. Like, I was thinking about the last handful of console generations when like a PlayStation 2 would launch at like $300. And it was a little pricey in like the year 2000, but it was manageable. It's kind of similar to like the PS5 launching at, I think, around $500 when that came out in 2020. And it was just a few years later that PS2 got down to $99, dude. For under $100 fucking bucks, you could buy that bitch brand new in the store. And that happened with every console generation. It wasn't just it was cheaper, it was massively cheaper. Like significantly cheaper. Where like it didn't cost much more than a fucking game. It costs like the cost of like 1.5 games. Maybe 2 games to buy the fucking console. And oftentimes that's when the majority of the population would go all in on a new console. It's like, all right, well, it's $100 now, and they'd pick it up. That's how I got game consoles when I was a kid. Like when the Sega Genesis came out, and I wanted it really bad in 1989, and it was too much money for my family. It's like, you're not getting that. It wasn't until that thing was like almost $100. Maybe it was like $120 or $129 or something, and came with a game packed in the box, that it suddenly made sense for families with lower income to fucking pick something like that up. And even then, it was a big deal. And the same deal like with the next generation, and the one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that. And this is the first time where it's not only more money than it was when it came out, but it's like a shit ton more money. It's ridiculous. If you want like the newest, highest end version of the PS5, it's like $1,000. It is so fucking stupid, dude. I can't think of a single thing that makes that feel like a worthwhile purchase. At that point, you might as well go all in on PC and pay the higher prices, because at least with the PC, it's fully customizable and it's like an open system where you can do anything you want on it. And you can upgrade it over time. You can give it more memory when memory becomes more affordable. You can put a better video card in it. You know, the one thing you can upgrade in your game console is the storage. You can put more storage in it, but the storage is too much money. I saw some fucking article a couple weeks ago where like I think it was like a 4 terabyte SSD for your PlayStation was like $3,000. Maybe it was an 8 terabyte. You imagine spending over $3,000 for essentially a hard drive for your fucking game console? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, eat a fucking dick. The fuck out of here. The fuck is wrong with you? That's the kind of bullshit you see from these greedy ass motherfuckers. There's no reason for it. They could totally sell that shit for an affordable price if they wanted to. They don't, because they want to make the money. And I was laying in the bath last night and I was thinking about all this bullshit. And I just feel it. Like, I feel it. Like, this shit is gonna drop through the fucking bottom of the barrel so fucking hard. I feel like something's gonna happen with one of the big tech companies, like OpenAI or NVIDIA. Probably not NVIDIA, but one of these big tech companies. Like, something is gonna happen where like they are all in on AI. That's what they're putting all of their money into. That's their sole technology. And they're buying up like the world's supply of these components. They probably have warehouses, not just a warehouse. They probably have warehouses with stockpiles where it's just like pallet after pallet after pallet after pallet stacked up on shelves, aisle after aisle after aisle after aisle, and warehouse after warehouse. Just like ridiculous of just fucking memory and hard drives and SSDs and to some extent like some of these video cards and stuff. But it's just like components and probably like years worth of these things. Just hoarding and hoarding and hoarding and stockpiling. Like, that's a problem. You think about people that are hoarders and they have like the hoarder house, the hoarder mentality, and it's like this disturbing disease. That's what these fuckers are like. They have a problem. They're broken. They're diseased. And you know what you do with a disease normally is you fucking eradicate it. You treat it. But they have a problem. And they're hoarding and stockpiling this stuff in like unimaginable quantities that has caused this like global crisis. And I feel like something is gonna fucking happen with one of these fuckers. Like some kind of legal issue, like something is gonna trigger like a collapse with one of these companies. And like the first thing they're gonna do is first of all, like the leaders are gonna jump ship because they're all a bunch of fucking pussies. Look at them motherfuckers, dude. You see these fucks, dude? Pussy with capital fucking letters. And the first thing they're gonna do is jump ship and like abandon everybody to save their own ass. And they're gonna start just like immediately. It's gonna be this cascade effect. This is what I was thinking anyway last night. I feel like it's gonna happen. I hope it does. Like one of these fuckers will be like the spark. I'm trying not to get too close to this mic, man. I'm trying. It'll be like the spark that ignites the fire. And they'll like first thing they're gonna like cancel all of their pre-orders for memory and components. The like $20 trillion pre-orders for the next fucking decade from these companies. They're gonna be like, actually, yeah, we don't want that now. We're gonna back out of that commitment we made. And then they're gonna like fucking just start liquidating. They're gonna try to sell their like 6,000 warehouses of fucking stock as fast as possible while it still has the high value on the market. And then all of the other companies that have been following the leader. Because like I was saying in my pilot episode, people are dumbass apes and they copy each other. That's what they do. That's one of the reasons why this whole AI thing is so fucking big right now. Because they all copy each other. Like, oh, this guy's doing it, I'm going to copy him. You look at the YouTube thumbnails. This guy's doing that, I better copy him. Everybody, they copy each other. That's why they're doing it. Because they're like, well, he must be onto something and I don't want him to have an edge on me. So then they copy him. And once like the leader jumps ship, they're all going to panic and everybody's going to start trying to sell their fucking massive stockpiles of inventory. Cause like, I want to say like a lot of these data centers that are being built or even are built aren't even operational because they don't have the power right now. They can't bring them online because they don't have the power yet. So they're just kind of sitting there waiting. And like imagine when they just start dumping all that stuff, panicking, like they're going to know, they're going to predict like the value dropping out of the bottom of the fucking barrel. And so everybody's going to try to sell it while the price is still high. And then suddenly the market's going to be flooded with like an absolute fuckload of these parts. And then you've got all these big producers like Micron and Samsung and SK Hynix ramping up production like nobody's business, more than they ever have in history, building brand new multi-billion-dollar fabs. And then all of a sudden, like all their big customers, like, yeah, we're gonna pivot now. We're getting out of this. And like, what the fuck's gonna happen there, dude? Like, they're probably gonna try to kind of play it off as like it's not a big deal and it's not as serious as we all think it is. And you're probably gonna see some of these shitheads still trying to sell like expensive, overpriced memory kits. It's gonna be for the gamers or for the fans. You know, it's gonna be like it's a purple Evangelion memory kit with green LEDs, and you're gonna be like, oh, it does look kind of cool, but I'm not paying fucking $500 for that. Are you kidding me? And they're not gonna be able to sell that shit because like you're not gonna want to go buy the new limited edition memory that's got like some license attached to it, because you're gonna be able to buy like fucking OpenAI's leftovers that they dumped for like dirt ass cheap, and it's like really good high-end memory, and there's gonna be more than you could ever use on the market. You're gonna be like, well, I got my 2 sticks for $50, I'm good now for the next 5 or 10 years. And there's gonna be so much of it. It's gonna be like, I feel like it's gonna be so fucking cheap. I don't know, like I don't understand enough about economics to know like what the repercussions are of that when all of a sudden there's like too much of it, like way like more than there's ever been in all of fucking history. But I feel like that is gonna happen. And then I was thinking like, I feel like, and I could be wrong, I'm wrong all the time. I've said it many times, like I'm just an average citizen. I'm not some fucking highly trained douchebag that thinks they know everything. I'm just an average citizen that thinks about shit. That's it. You know? And I could be wrong, like I said, but like I have this fucking gut feeling that companies like Sony, they're looking at these prices of components, and they know that like realistically they can't produce a PlayStation 6 and make a nice fat profit that satisfies their goal for exponential growth that's higher than it was last year and higher than it was the year before that. And it can't just be higher, it has to be like 50% higher, it has to be 100% higher, it has to be 200% higher. That's how these fucks operate. It's never good enough. It's never good enough. They could make a profit and be doing real well, but that's not good enough. We need more than that. We need more than that. That's how they fucking operate. And so to make the kind of ridiculous profits that they want to make, I feel like they're going to look at the cost of the components and how it's gone way up for them. And instead of eating a dick like they should, they're going to, I feel like they're going to take that original spec that they've been developing and they're gonna like cut it. They're gonna be like, well, it was supposed to have 24 gigs of RAM, or it was supposed to have 32 gigs of RAM. I think there's some numbers out there. Maybe some people have put together some spec sheets of what they think is going to be in that thing. I haven't bothered to look. I don't care that much. I'm not. I like to speculate about things like this and say I'm just speculating. It's kind of like food for thought. But I'm not into like, oh, this is what's going to be in it. I know now. And it's like, well, wait and see what's actually in it. So I haven't looked at those like spec sheets and those like, what do they call those? The bill of materials or whatever. But I'm going to guess it's more than the current PlayStation, because I think the current system has like 12 gigs of RAM. I'm going to guess they would want at least 24, if not 32, but I feel like maybe 24 or something. Anyway, I feel like they're going to try to cut that and be like, well, could we get by with just 16 or maybe like 18? Can we do something weird like that? And then like they're going to, I feel like they're going to try to cut parts out of it to save money and still keep the price up there where they want it, which is probably going to be like, I feel like, dude, that there's going to be like a $9.99 package. Like it needs to be under 1,000 to trick our customers into buying this thing. And it's going to be gimped. They're going to cut a bunch of shit out of it. No controller, 500 gigabyte fucking 52 RPM mechanical drive. Like, you know, no fucking disk drive. That's what I'm thinking, dude. It's going to be in one of these like super shitty disposable boxes. It's going to be made with the cheapest fucking materials. It's going to feel like the cheapest console you ever owned in your life. Like, I feel like it's another place they're going to try to save money is like not just the components, but also like the materials, like the plastics. It's no longer going to be premium anything. It's going to be like the cheapest shit possible. It's going to feel disposable. And then there'll be like a higher version that's maybe like $1,200 to $1,400 that has the controller, and maybe they put an SSD in that one. I'm sure they'll end up putting an SSD in all of them. I can't imagine they'd put in it, but at the same time, I wouldn't put it past them. But I feel like they're going to cut parts out of it to make it less powerful and be like, it's still going to be good enough. It's going to be good enough. We'll be able to rely on, because this generation, we haven't had the ability to use like AI-based upscaling like you can on like a modern video card, like DLSS. Like having DLSS is like a game changer with modern gaming. And I know that the Nintendo Switch 2 it has some like really low level version of DLSS that it can tap into, and it basically allows it to compete with the modern console, like just barely can compete with something like a stock PS5, kind of. And without that, it would be basically junk, like trash. And so it's using that. And if Nintendo, with that low end ass fucking chintzy ass fucking kids toy, that's way overpriced for what it is. But if that thing can kind of keep up with a modern console, even though it's a piece of junk, then I imagine like if Sony, as an example, has something kind of like that but better, they would be able to do a lot more with a lot less, if you know what I mean. And then maybe they'd start relying on that more heavily. Like, well, we still got our DLSS like upscaling technology that's going to be in every one of these things. And you know what? Like we talked to the engineering guys. We had a big meeting about it. We're going to cut some memory out of this. And, you know, we will sell more storage, but we're not going to pack more storage in out of the box for our customers. And I'm just thinking about that. And it's like, I feel like around the time that fucker launches, that will have already been set in stone. It's going to be like a much less capable system than it was supposed to be. And it's going to be way more money than it was supposed to be. And it's not going to have any kind of physical media or drive of any kind. But I do think my personal feeling, because it's just like a gut feeling, is that they will sell an external drive so that you can still use your PS4 and PS5 games with it. But the new PS6 games won't be using a drive. So it's only for those people that want to have like the backwards compatibility with last gen's games. Like they'll still support that. You know, they'll still sell one of those for like $120 or something for a fucking external drive that you could probably buy for PC for like $20. They'll do that for you. I feel like when that thing comes out and it's significantly less spec than it was supposed to be and way more money than it was supposed to be and has all these fucking compromises that people aren't happy about, is right around the time that suddenly the market is going to be flooded with memory, and memory is going to be like dirt ass cheap, and you'll be able to put together like a high-end gaming PC for like the same price as this like piece of junk console. And I feel like it's not going to go well for them, and they're going to try to keep that price up. And then eventually it's going to be like, okay, we're going to give it a discount for our fans because we love you guys. And it's still going to be too much. Like instead of $9.99 for like the shit base model, it's going to be like $7.99 or something. And it's like, dude, that thing needs to be like $2.99 for what that is. That's how I feel. And I don't know. I was just thinking about that shit last night. I was just thinking about all that stuff kind of coming together, all around the same time. Like the memory prices falling through the fucking bottom of the barrel. Like just breaking right through the bottom. The fucking whole barrel just empties. And it's a mess. Absolute shit show. Like how, like, I don't know enough about how that stuff works. But like, what would be the repercussions of that? Like if those prices dropped like that and the market was flooded with parts and anybody could just go and imagine how that would feel, where it's like, dude, like, you remember like last year, this would have cost me $2,000. I picked this up for $150, dude. Like the idea that, and then like all these people, like, you know, there's a bunch of scalpers out there that are like hoarding this stuff and they're trying to sell it with a markup on like eBay and shit. In other places. All of a sudden, all that shit becomes useless garbage, dirt ass cheap. And then the consoles, like, if the console manufacturers come out with something that's like over $1,000 and it's not even that good, like, what are they gonna do when like within a year or so the component prices are like dirt ass cheap? Because like they probably had to pay those higher prices a year or two before that, because like the production takes a while, right? Like they have to buy all the product, all the hardware, all the components, and then all that stuff has to get manufactured. Like they might even be manufacturing stuff by the end of this year or sometime next year and building up that stock, because normally that, right, like they generally want to have like millions of quantities in a warehouse somewhere, and that doesn't happen overnight. That's going to take like a year or more. You know, I want to say that Nintendo had the stock of like completed Switch 2 units like during the pandemic, and then they just like rebranded it. They're like, they put it in a different box. They probably had to send them back through manufacturing to change like graphics on the chassis. Instead of saying Switch Pro, it said Switch 2. And then they had to like throw away all the boxes that said Switch Pro and change it to Switch 2. They probably had to do that. And then they probably had to like burn it all and make sure there was zero evidence that they did that. Because like when those original Switch 2 units came out when it launched last year, I'm pretty sure there was like somebody got a hold of like the main board, and the components on that board were from like 2021. They were from like 2021, dude. And that is long as fuck ago. So like they likely already had that shit built and like ready to ship during the pandemic. And then they probably had to remanufacture it to change all the branding and probably load like a new OS on it and put new firmware on it and shit. It was probably such a shit show. It's probably such a shit show to do that, dude. Can you imagine like teams of people like in a warehouse like detrashing all these Switch Pro boxes and then like they go on like an assembly line and go to teams that are like pulling the chassis apart and snapping on the new Switch 2 chassis and then having to like wipe all the fucking firmware and OSs off of all the units and put all new shit on it and like everybody's like under like hard like legal agreements. They can't talk about this or you are done. Your family's gone. I feel like that probably happened. So like my point is that takes a while to produce all that stuff. And then it sits in a warehouse for sometimes like a year or more. And if Sony does that, right, and like maybe next year, sometime soon, they probably start production. And they've got to buy the components when they're real expensive. And then they've got to produce everything when it's really expensive. And then it's going to be sitting in a warehouse for a long ass time before they're ready to actually release the console to the public. And then if around that time, component prices just drop through the fucking bottom of the barrel. And their console comes out at like $1,000+ like, are they just going to immediately be like, hey, we see the prices now are dirt cheap and everybody's buying all these cheap ass components, so we're going to lower our price by like $800? I doubt it, because they already had to pay all that fucking money for the more expensive components and probably more expensive manufacturing. They're not just going to want to lose that now. They're probably going to keep selling it at that high price for like until the stock is gone, and then maybe readjust their prices somewhat accordingly to the current market. And that's probably only to the current market based on the prices that they got for something that they probably components that they still have in another warehouse that didn't go into assembly yet, but they were still more than they are now. And so maybe they dropped the price a little bit. It's $100 less. Because you know how like in the last few years, both Microsoft and Sony have been raising the price of their console like $100 every year. Like every year it goes up $100, sometimes more. And it would probably be kind of like that, reducing the price if the prices went dirt ass cheap. They'd be like, well, we'll knock $100 off by the end of the following year. And then like 2 years later, we'll knock another 50 off. And it's still like way too much fucking money. And it's not as good because they cut parts out of it in the first place. That's like the kind of shit I'm thinking. And it's, you know, maybe it's like a little too critical and harsh. I don't know. I get this feeling that like some slimy bullshit like that is going to happen. And that they wouldn't immediately adapt to the market change. They wouldn't just immediately say, yeah, you know what? Stuff's super cheap now, so let's go ahead and sell this thing at the price it should be, which is like $499 for a brand new system like this. They're going to probably keep it really fucking out of reach, even if they reduce the price. For a while. I mean, they're going to try to get away with it for as long as fucking possible, because that's what they all do. They all try to get away with shit. That's how these fuckers operate. They all try to get away with whatever they can for as long as they can. It's never about doing the right thing or being the good guy or helping people out. It's about like, how much shit can I get away with and for how long? That's it. My personal food for thought. That's just probably kind of inaccurate, but also maybe not. All right. Well, maybe I try to fuck around with this thing. What I really want to have is like a really nice camera setup so that we can look at my anything that I want to look at and demonstrate it on my channel. And I just don't have the tools to do that. And I don't foresee myself having that anytime soon. But at some point, someday, I really do want to have the ability to like cleanly like illustrate whatever it is I'm doing. I want to have a nice camera pointed at like this modular system. I'll switch over to it here. It's like I hate how that looks. It looks so fucking bad. And then like the other issue is if I go over there and I try to like do something with that case to make some new sounds, I can't talk about it because my mic is affixed way over here. There's no moving this mic. And this mic has taken me days to fine tune its positioning. I can't just suddenly move it. And it's affixed in place now. There's no moving it from where I have it. So I have no microphone over there. So if I go over there, you're just going to see my hands with this shitty fisheye view. And I'm not going to be able to say anything that's happening. And it's going to take me like 30 minutes to unplug all those fucking cables to do anything else. It's like, I like the idea of going over there and playing around with the case and making some cool sounds on my channel. But it's like, how am I going to do that with this shit fucking camera and no ability to have a microphone over there? That's my current predicament. But like I have that case there, and then and I have a little, it basically the bedroom in my apartment I turned into a little studio with a bunch of my music equipment. And like I have another case about this size, but it's a different shape. And then I have like a couple of synths, like a desktop synth, like keyboard synth. I've got a drum machine and a groove box and a couple rack synths. And I was like, it'd be cool to work on some, just kind of experiment with it and play around with it, like in a live format where I'm filming it in real time, and but then I have to have some way to talk, right? Like I need to be able to interact with people or at least describe what's happening. I feel like to make it worthwhile, you know, that's the issue I'm having here. Let me go back. So I feel kind of stuck here. Like I don't see any way to like overcome this right now. And like this camera that I'm using on my face, like that's something that required so much like fine tuning and tweaking to have it sitting where it is now and making this work. I can't just move it. I can't just pick it up and I move it and suddenly it's just working. It would be like hours. And then of course then there'd be no camera on my face. And it's like not realistic. And it's like, that's why I tried to get this GoPro to work here. It's not working, man. It's just not working. It sucks. I wanted to do that today. That was one of my goals. I was thinking I'd try to find a way. I'd try to make this fucker work and have a way to like use some equipment on here and make some different types of content. And I just don't see it being possible right now. And it's so frustrating because like I have most of what I need, but not everything. Ultimately, what I'd like to do at some point, you know, if we're gonna like fantasize about how I could do this right, I need a nice solid computer to do proper video capture at a good high quality, and then have more than one capture card and then more than one camera, you know, a camera kind of like this one here, but then another one like on whatever it is I'm ultimately what I really want to have. Because like I was saying, it takes so many hours, days to configure a setup. Days, dude. That I'd like to have multiple stations that are completely like affixed, and I've set them up and fine-tuned them for that application. And I want to have one of those setups where like there's a camera pointing down at a table so that you can see what's on the table and have nice lighting around it. and then one obviously pointing at me, and then another one pointing at like an area that would be dedicated for viewing something that's not laying flat on a table. Like this case over here, because this case stands upright. And it makes it challenging. It makes it challenging for me to use it because I have it sitting on my coffee table. And like you can see it, like it's on my coffee table. If I switch over to it again, you can see it, like it's so low. Like I can't even see the bottom of that fucking thing unless I get on the floor on my carpet. And it's like, it's so impractical to try to use that in here on my coffee table. And to try to film doing that, dude, oh man, I don't know. I do want to fuck around with it though. You know what? I'm gonna turn down, because like, all these cables, eventually they go into a little mixer module where all the sound gets mixed together into one stereo mix. I'm gonna turn down the volume on all but one of these devices, and then I'm gonna fuck around with like one device just to kind of play around with it a little bit on this recording, just to see how it goes. I won't be able to talk into the microphone, so just bear with me on that, but I'm gonna give it a shot. It's experimental. It's my first time trying this. My first time. I don't have a pro setup. So I'm gonna go do that right now, okay? Give me just a second. I want to turn the volume up on it because I realized I had the volume turned way down. I figured since I won't be able to come over here on the mic. Let me do this. Since I can't come over here onto the mic, I'm going to turn the volume up on this so that you can hear the sound of the device. I feel like right about there. Be okay, I think. And I've just got right now, I have this oscillator. It just creates sound, and it's like a continuous tone, and you can adjust the pitch on it, and then you can adjust a lot more rather than just kind of having like one tone, like a sine wave or a sawtooth wave or a square wave. You can make a really complex waveform, and you can shape the shit out of it to get some really wild sounds. And then I'm just gonna fuck with that going into a filter, and then after the filter it's gonna go into a like I think it's called like it's a reverb. I forget the type of reverb it is. It's like a I don't know why the word specular, that's not the right word. I can't think of the fucking word. But it's basically a reverb effect. And it's gonna be in stereo when I turn on the the reverb. Otherwise, it's going to sound like a mono signal. And I'm just going to fuck around with knobs on it for a few minutes and see what happens. Because I'm just an experiment. I don't really know. I don't know. I don't have a specific sound in mind I want to make. I want to kind of demonstrate what kind of sounds you can get from a device like this. And it gives you an idea of like some cool, just how cool they are, dude. Like you can sit down and you can just start like making sounds from scratch. And I like that like feeling of unknown, of experimentation. Like I'm not thinking, okay, I want to make this melody. It's not like if I grab a keyboard and I'm like, I'm going to play this song that I learned how to play and it's going to sound exactly like this. And I've practiced it for the last 20 years. And I'm just trying to get a little better at playing the same exact song. And it always sounds basically the same, right? Where with something like this, it's like experimental sound design. It's like going into this like place like in your mind or in dreams and just having like a brand new experience being kind of manifested around you. And you can get absorbed in it. And it's fun and stimulating. And I don't like to approach it as like, I know exactly how this works. I know exactly what this is going to do. Like sometimes I have an idea, but oftentimes I'm like, I don't really know what the fuck this is going to do when I plug this in here or when I flip this switch. Let's see. I like that about it. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go back to that screen. It's going to get louder. Some of it might sound weird or harsh as I fuck around with knobs, but I like these like cool sounds that we could get. Hopefully I get some cool sounds and I don't just sound like a fucking loser the whole time. So let's switch back to it. I'm not sure how that came out. It's just like, dude, I can get like just fucking absorbed in that shit. I just want to like sit there and keep fucking around that shit for like hours. And like, I want to get other devices going because like, I wanted a snare drum sound. I'm like, fuck, I don't have any other modules in here to do that. I have some stuff in the other room that I could have used where I could have added like a snare and it would have sounded fucking more like rhythmic. Maybe next time I'll try to set up some other shit. Like one of the issues I was like having trouble with was finding a way to set up my other instruments with this thing because like I don't have everything, you know? And I wanted to sync like one of my drum machine with it, but I don't have like a module that lets me clock sync the two devices together. So like the drum machine wouldn't be in perfect clock with this thing and it wouldn't sound right. It would be off with the timing. I wanted to do that. It was like originally what I was thinking. And I'm like, damn it, I don't think I have the right tools to sync these two things together. Damn it all. But maybe next time I'll fuck around with something more and see what else we can do. Cause like I've been feeling kind of inspired recently to start messing around with some of this stuff. And I wanted to find a way to record it and capture it here, like live in real time. Like one of the issues I always run into is like I do it alone and then I'm like, okay, well now how am I going to record this stuff? And the way I typically approach that is I isolate each sound after that I like and I record them one at a time on my computer, track by track. And then I try to get them to like go together afterwards, like in post-production. And then I listen to it and I'm like, well, still missing something, you know? And then I add something else to it and something else and I start layering it. I might play guitar with it. And before you know it, like it's like months or weeks at least have gone by and working on this thing. And now it's like no longer even close to what the original idea was. And then I want to make it sound better. So then it's like weeks and months of trying to like get the quality up there on it. And then it's just like by the end of the whole thing, I've like lost all perspective. I don't like how it came out. And I like when I just fuck around like this. And it's like this raw experience. I never capture that. I never capture that raw experience of like just recording that thing I fucked around with. And I never have a way to like share that with anybody to be like, no, dude, but it's like super cool to just sit here and fuck with this one thing. And it never ends up like materializing in a way that I'm happy with. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm never able to like capture that. So I wanted to do that, experiment with that, even though I don't have the right fucking camera or the right lighting. You could barely see what I was fucking doing. I was just experimenting. Half the fucking case had a bunch of cables already patched in that was making it a pain in the fucking ass to figure out what the fuck I needed to reroute some of these modules. I feel like part of it was kind of neat. And in other parts, I was like struggling to get it going. But like, I feel kind of like excited and inspired. Like I want to do more of that. I have this other device that I want to bring in here. It's the Lyra 8 analog synthesizer. And I wanted to fuck with that on here. And I have to figure out a way to get it all connected because one of the limitations I have with this little setup is my audio interface here. I'm going to try to hold it up to the camera and hopefully it doesn't come unplugged. That's what everything's plugged into for all the audio. Let me try to hold it up. Oh, shit, it won't reach. Damn it. But you can kind of see it. I can't, like the cable is too short and I can't get it over to the camera enough to show it. It's about the size of like a fucking guitar effects pedal. and it has an input on it for my microphone, and it has one mono input for the microphone, and then it has one stereo input for something else. And what I typically use that for, what I was using it for, was capturing the analog audio output from my game consoles when I was playing games on my CRT in my bedroom. But ever since I started doing direct capture, I don't have to do that because the audio is captured over the HDMI cable. And so I've had this like free stereo input now. And I'm like, dude, I could plug like maybe a synthesizer or a piece of gear into that. And so that's what I did here. I have this like Y cable that takes two TS cables and converts them into a single mini TRS cable or jack. And it allows me to plug this synth case into this little interface to capture the analog output from the little mixer that's built into the case. Because the thing with a synthesizer like this, they're like little modules that are kind of similar to like a guitar effects pedal in their size and some of their functionality. And you buy them piecemeal from all different companies. There's like dozens and dozens, if not hundreds at this point, of companies that make different types of modules, and they all have different abilities and styles, different ways you interact with them, and they're different tools. Some are like devices that purely make a sound. Others are devices that can help shape a sound. Others are devices that are like tools that help you to control all these other, because like you see there's like knobs and switches on all these things. And you can see it like in the bottom little picture there. There's knobs and switches on them. And you can control those with your hands. And I like that. I like that direct interaction. But the other thing that you can do with them, which is cool, and I did it a little bit here, is that you can take like a tool or a utility module that will basically move those knobs like on their own. It modulates them. So instead of having to stand there or sit there and turn the shit with my hands, you can send like a low frequency oscillator. It's like a low frequency wave that will modulate a parameter to like say move it, like move a knob back and forth. The knob doesn't actually move, but it might as well be. Like it's moving digitally. And then all of a sudden it can like sweep a parameter left and right, for example, without having to do that with my hand. And then it frees my hand up to do something else. And what some people will do is just modulate everything. And the whole thing's just kind of like auto playing itself. But it can be like really dynamic and evolving. It's not affixed and doing the same exact thing every time all day long. You could have something that plays maybe a melody or a tune or sounds that are kind of similar, but they're always changing a little bit so that it doesn't feel too sterile and static. And it's something you can do to add like creativity and experimentation, is by modulating different parameters. It's pretty cool. And you can do it like way more than that. I'm just like oversimplifying what's possible. And then you've got devices that make sound, some that shape sound, some that are just tools and utilities, and also effects like delays and reverbs and distortions. And then it all has to go into a mixer as well. Like the thing with modular synthesizers is like you need to buy a device for every function that you want to have. If you want to be able to plug in headphones and listen to it, you have to buy a module to do that. You can't just do that. You have to buy a special module that has a headphone jack on it, and then you have to hook it up to the case. And then if you want to use it, you've got to plug cables from your sound source into the module with the headphone jack. Otherwise, you aren't going to hear shit. It's kind of like imagining like a standalone device. Like say you bought a keyboard synthesizer, and it's got the keyboard and it's got some knobs on it and it's got like a headphone jack on it. and you just sit there and play stuff, and sometimes you'll change like a preset sound or turn a knob, and you plug in your headphones and listen. But like with a device like this, it's kind of like all this shit that's happening like under the hood in all the circuitry you're doing with all these fucking wires. And it's almost like a analog, like external circuit board that you're manually connecting all the parts together on the fly. You're like, well, I don't want the circuit board configured like this. I'm going to change it this time to a completely different configuration. Now I'm going to route all the electrical signals to different devices. And you have a lot more freedom and creativity, but it's also a pain in the ass because you got to manually do it every fucking time. And like, if I want to do something different with this, I have to unplug every fucking cable. It takes like 20 or 30 fucking minutes. And I have to organize it all. And I have to have all different lengths of cable. And over time, those cables will go bad, and then you get new cables. A module might go bad. And they're expensive. These fuckers are expensive. I don't have the money anymore to buy any of this stuff. But back years ago, like about 3 years ago, is when I stopped buying this stuff. It was like 2023. I went in like real hard because like I had a ton of overtime. I had some money, and I'm like, I want to ensure that I'm set up for the future on this endeavor that I want to pursue. And these things, one of the biggest barriers to entry with tools like this is cost. A case like that right there that I was just fucking with is thousands of dollars to buy those. Each one of those modules is like $300 to $600 for one fucking module. And then you've got to buy enough to have like basic functionality. You need a sound source, which is an oscillator. And that's going to cost you generally a few $100. I mean, there's different tiers. The more complex it is, the more it generally costs. There's digital versus analog. Different brands have different prices. You know, some brands you might get a cool ass module for like $250. And another brand, it might be almost the same thing, but they'll want like $600 or $800 for it. And then there's like the sound source. You're going to need at least one. You're going to need at least one type of filter. And you're going to want to have some kind of mixer. Like, I feel like bare ass minimum, you'd want that. And ideally, you're going to want some kind of effect, like delay or reverb or something. And then just that right there is probably going to cost you well over $1,000 for like the most basic ass. And that's not even giving you the ability to modulate anything, to control anything. You're not going to be able to send like different voltages to change the pitch of your sound source. So the only time you're going to be changing pitch is when you're turning a knob. But if you want to have like a melody or a sequence playing that sounds musical, you're going to need to buy a special standalone device to send those very specific voltages to your sound source to change the what do you call it? I forget the fucking name, dude. Like you're basically giving it a different voltage to change the pitch. I can't think what the technical term is. But based on like what voltage you send that pitch input, it changes like the pitch. And if it's controlled with like I'm forgetting the terminology now. I haven't done this seriously in a couple of years. But if like you could have a voltage that's being sent to that pitch input, and it could be like, you know, like a smooth waveform, and so the voltage will just kind of I'll show you. I'll go back to it. bear with me. I can't see what I'm doing, and I'm like, what is causing that? What the hell is going on? I got it now. But you can hear, like, right, it would just be a steady pitch. And then if you want to change the pitch, you turn it manually. But if you want to send that, there's an input next to that knob where you can control that pitch with another tool. And you do that by sending voltages. Everything has a voltage sent to it, different values, different voltages through those cables. And if I send very specific voltages to that, anyway, you can see what I mean. It changes the pitch very like specific values. And you can do it to create like melodies and shit. So like ideally you'd want something else to send voltages, controlled voltages to different devices, and like easily probably looking at like 12 to 1500 bucks just to get like the most basic ass shit. I mean, you can always go with like super dirt cheap, really basic parts and probably do it for cheaper. But like when I bought my first modules in small case that was way smaller than this, it was over $1,000. But it was the most like inspiring and like creative sort of instrument that I'd ever used in my life. And I realized like this is what I wanted used to make sound. You know, like I don't have a background in like traditional, I'm not trained to play music classically. I have no background in that. And I'm not good at it. And I don't really enjoy trying to be good at it. It doesn't feel good to try to like copy somebody and then play that copy of something over and over and over and over and over. And that's all you're doing is trying to copy something really well for your whole life. I don't like doing that. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel creative. That shit sucks. I like something that feels creative and inspiring and like I'm on a journey. And sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it's fun and exciting. Sometimes it's cool. And I realized when I bought modules back in like 2020, I think it was like late 2021, maybe during the pandemic, I just got this little tiny IntelliGel case and I got like 4 modules in it. It was like fucking 12, maybe 1,500 bucks. It was so expensive, but it was like the most interesting, creative, like inspiring sounds I'd ever made in my life. And like when I did it, it felt good. It felt so fucking good doing it. And then like a year or two went by and like I didn't have the money to keep doing that. And then like I said, like in 2023, there was so much overtime at my last job that it was like 8 months. It was like 8 months solid of overtime. And it was absolute misery. And the one thing that kept me going was, okay, I have this goal. I'm going to put together the tools I want, the tools I need to do what I want to do creatively. And I put this case together and I have another one around this size, but a different shape. That was like my like pure focus that year. And I wanted to have these kinds of tools because they were the most inspiring, creative instruments I'd ever used. And I'm like, this is what I want to have for making sounds. And so now I have them. And I want to do something more with them than what I've been doing in the past. Because a lot of times what'll happen is, like I was saying, like I'll spend weeks or months working on something, and then I don't like how it comes out. But before I do that, there's usually like a week or sometimes a couple of weeks where I'm doing what I just did here on the video, where I just experiment and explore. And then it never turns into anything. I never do anything with it. That was just the part of the process that gets me going. But there's all these moments in time that are lost. And I feel like there's some really cool experiences to be had. And if I could somehow capture that in real time and record it and do it, like maybe do it here in a way where I'm not trying to make something professionally and record it into a DAW and then work on it later with a bunch of post-production and shit. Just record that raw experience. And I have the tools to do that. I'm like, I have some cool things that I could incorporate into my channel that's not just me playing some fucking games. And I don't want to be that fake poser YouTuber personality, because that's not me. It's never been my personality. I've always resisted that kind of behavior. It reminds me if you've worked at like a professional job and you're in that setting where there's like, you know, it's like you got HR over your shoulder the whole time, and everybody's got this fake fucking smile. Everybody's pretending to be nice to each other because they don't want to get written up. They don't want to go to HR. They don't want to have some report or file on them. So they're all fake as fuck, disingenuous as fuck. And like, who the fuck wants to act like that and be like that when you're not there? You're broken out of that system. You don't have to be like that anymore. But these fucks on platforms like this, like they do it like they're in that world. It's sickening. It's so disgusting. And I think a lot of them are doing it because, like I've said before, like they want your money. They want your time. Your time and your energy is converted at some point into some kind of resource for them. It's not for me, because I have like one fucking viewer. It's like, it's me when I review my content. You know, I have like 1 or 2 views on any of my shit. I don't have any monetization. And I don't, if I had like, you know, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, like, of course I would want to find some way to get something back from that, because like I need to have food and shelter. Like that's what I need to survive. And that's something that, like, every day I am uncertain if I'm going to have it. And if I can find a way to have food and shelter and then do this kind of thing with my time, it's like I'm putting something out there into the world, and I'm hoping to get something in return someday. But I don't want to do it in a dishonest, disingenuous, and manipulative way. I don't believe in that way of living. And so, yeah, sure, it would be nice someday if that were to occur. I wouldn't turn it away. However, what I would prefer is if at some point in time I had like a subscriber base. I don't know what you call it, you know, like enough people that are interested in what I do, where I could have some kind of like Patreon sort of system. I would prefer to have something like that, and then keep the ads off my fucking videos. Because at some point, like I believe that's what happens when you get to a certain point on YouTube, is suddenly ads start appearing on your content. Even content that's like I have content on my channel that got flagged as like copyrighted. And I believe at some point, once I have enough, if I have enough viewers or subscribers, those videos will just have ads in them because whoever has the copyright wants to make money now off of my content because they own the thing that I was playing, the game I played, or the 15-second clip of video or audio that played in the 3 hours that I was playing the game. Suddenly now it's like they own my video. So as soon as my channel is able to have ads, they're going to have the ads enabled against my will, unless I delete the video. And then people watching that will have ads playing constantly, even if I don't want those fucking ads on my channel. And I would prefer to find some way to have no ads at all, but still have like a way to have like, you know, obviously I would have to have quality content and have people interested in my content. But I would, in this like ideal future that I envision, I would prefer to not ever have ads on my fucking content if possible. Because there's a lot of content creators that I've personally subscribed to and have enjoyed their content, but they are so fucking riddled with ads. Like there's so many of these fucking ads that play that it makes it almost unwatchable. You know, it's almost impossible to watch their videos because it's like, well, like 3 or 4 ads play before the thing starts. And then like 5 minutes in, there's another 3 or 4. And then 5 minutes later, there's another 3 or 4. And many of the ads that play are some of the most repulsive fucking ads. Like they sicken me. And, you know, maybe they don't, because I don't know how that works yet, but maybe they don't have a choice over what ads play, but still at the same time, like it's horrible. It sucks. And they want to make money. They want to have an income from what they create and put out into the world. You know, there's some people out there where they'll spend, you can tell when you watch their videos and you look at how often they release videos. And you look at this video is like 2 or 3 hours long, and you can tell it's got a script. From beginning to end is a script. And then it's heavily edited. There's tons of cuts and different shots of content. It's not just them playing a game. They obviously played a game and recorded probably the whole thing, which probably took up like terabytes of space on their computer. And then they had to go in afterwards and they'd write a script, which probably took them fucking weeks. And they probably had to do a bunch of edits to make the script sound more intelligent. It's not going to come out fucking perfect the first try. And then they probably had to like test rating it and doing some rough videos, editing, and then start like getting all this material together. It's like not just the fucking game, but also all this other filler content that they put in there. And then start editing it all together. And it like takes months. It's like months of fucking work. You see some of these guys, it'll be like every 3 to 4 months sometimes they have one video. And if you watch their content enough, and if they're being honest, it seems like some of these guys, that's their full-time job. That's what they do. They don't have another source of income. And it's taking them that long to do everything by themselves, taking them months between each video. And they want to get something back from that, dude. It's like they put so much time and energy. You imagine like if you worked 3 or 4 months at a decent job, 3 to 4 months. I guess I'm thinking you probably want to get fucking paid for that. You would probably expect some kind of money, a transaction to take place if you worked for somebody for 3 or 4 months or longer. Or one day. You probably expect something for that, for your fucking time and energy. And that's what these people are doing. They're putting their time and energy into creating something. And then they're hoping to get something back. And a lot of people are like, you know, they expect everything for free. Everything should be free. And it's like, it's unrealistic to expect that somebody's going to put in a bunch of their time and energy and hard work and try to make something that you find enjoyable and it should be free for you. That experience should be free. You fucking kidding me? And like they often like they're not asking for much. It's like they just have ads on their fucking video, or they have a Patreon. And for people that really enjoy their content and have the resources to do so, like there are people in the world, and I'm not one of them, but there's people in the world that have like more money than they need. Like they own a house, they have a nice car, they have multiple cars. Money's like no object for them. It's really not a big deal. They have such a nice job. They have such a fat fucking salary that they can spend extra money on things and not even really think about it. And if they find like, oh, like I donate $10 a month to somebody's Patreon to help support them making this content, yeah, that's not a big deal. They feel better about themselves, almost like they donated to charity or something. And it's like, when you think about it too, and you put it into perspective, because a lot of those Patreons, people are asking for like $5 or $10 a month. And it's like, dude, you spend more than that in the morning on your way to work when you stop at the fucking gas station and get like a donut and a soda or fucking coffee. You probably spend more than that to get a fucking bagel. And it's like one time, one day. And this is like somebody's like month of fucking well-being. When you put it in perspective like that, it doesn't seem like much. And some people, that's like all that they're hoping for. And I don't think it's unreasonable. But what I don't like is when they're extremely disingenuous and they're extremely phony and everything is extremely contrived to try to like kind of funnel you into their monetary system. And they're seeing you as a consumer, you know, like that kind of mentality. That's what I don't like. It's so disingenuous. Dude, there's some people I used to watch on YouTube that like years ago, they just had like really like down to earth, like helpful advice. They were just themselves and they were just like teaching you how to do something. That's it. And as their channel grew, as time went by, they started to change into the, what do you call that? Like the content creator personality. And they started being like really fake and disingenuous and wearing a bunch of makeup like they're on the set of a TV show. And they started like showing themselves off in ways where it's like no longer about their content. It's like, hey, look how cool I am. I'm so cool. And I'm your buddy. And it's just like everything about their fucking content and the way that they portrayed themselves changed to like cater to this broader audience, I guess. And I found it so off-putting, like I stopped subscribing and watching their videos. It had like the complete opposite effect on me. And I want to try to be real here and just have like real, honest content. And obviously, like this is super fucking budget ass, low end, what we're starting with. Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody starts at the bottom unless you've got like rich parents and somebody like set you up in a way. I think what some people do is they start at the bottom for years and then I need to stop looking at the fucking computer. They start at the bottom for years under like a different channel name and like a different persona. And then once they feel like they've kind of exhausted that but learned from it, they'll start a new channel somewhere else. And they'll start off like at a much higher level, seemingly from the beginning, but it's not really because they spent years doing it already. But we're starting here from the very bottom and we don't really know what we're doing or exactly what direction we want to go, other than I want to make things. And the things that I've made in my life never work out. You know, they never work out for me. They never come together in the ways that I want them to, the ways that I'm hoping they will. I'm always dissatisfied with the outcome. And the traditional way of spending months on some one thing and then it's released and it's kind of shit doesn't seem to work for me. So I want to try this kind of thing where I turn on a camera and I just fucking make things. And sometimes it sucks. Sometimes I don't even know what the fuck I'm going to do or talk about. And then other times I feel like maybe something kind of neat happened here and there. And I start to formulate like a better idea of the direction that I want to go. You know, I'm naturally a creative, artistic person. And often in life, like, you don't get an opportunity to fully pursue those desires because life doesn't let you. People don't let you. And you don't have a space to do it. And it's kind of like, you know, like children, young people are often like more, they have a more positive outlook on the future. They have this like idea of like fantasy thinking, you know, and like fairy tales and that sort of thing. And they believe in that stuff. But often they believe in it because their parents tell them it's real, which I think is fucking fucked up. But they often have that like creative freedom to be themselves and believe in magic. And then as you get older, like that's destroyed. And the harsh reality is like you're a slave. You're a slave for fucking trash. The end. That's that. Like, if you want to have like a realistic outlook on life, it's like you are basically born to be a slave for living trash. The end. That's it. And that's not what I want to do with my life. I don't want to be a slave to living trash anymore. I want to be a creative person that has a place to be creative. It's like what I want to do. I just want to like make things and release them publicly, even if it sucks. Even if I suck at it. I want to get better at it and I want to try different things. And like I've said before, like part of it's just having all of the tools to make it happen. If I could film this stuff at a higher level, I think it'd be a lot cooler. And like I have some of it and I'd like to get more. I've had this idea, like maybe I'd get back into that if I have the tools to make it happen. But like I used to make jewelry and I'd like to find some way like to make that stuff. You know what? Hold on. Just give me just like a second here. I want to grab a couple things just to show what I'm talking about. Let me see if there's, yeah, let me turn this thing back on. And I'll be right back. I'm back. I'll turn this down. Okay. I wanted to show a couple things I made so that you can get an idea what I'm talking about. The earrings I'm wearing I made. You can kind of see them. I've got these other earrings that I made here. And I can't get I don't have a zoom function on this camera. It's a prime lens. You can't really see it. But it's got a bell in it. And it's an earring. It's like sterling silver with little silver beads and an aquamarine gemstone bead, and then a little bell. I just bought a bunch of parts, and then I experimented with different designs until I got this one and I liked it. I don't have a ton. I had some stuff I gave as gifts to people years ago. I've got this bracelet I made. That's, they're rings. Like chain, it's almost like chainmail or something. And the beads are like captured inside the rings. And at the base of it, there's a clasp that looks like a peacock. And I tried to make the colors of the beads similar to a peacock's feathers. They're like green and purple. And I've got another similar one that's got aquamarine crystals, but they're not actually aquamarine, unlike the earrings. These are Swarovski. It's like a really high grade of glass, I believe. And the clasp on this one is a mermaid, and I made the beads to look kind of like a water or something. I can't put my head out of the way. I've got this other one I don't like. I was experimenting. It's got like blue... what is that called? I forget. It's some kind of blue stone. And then wooden beads. And I just don't like how it came out. But it's a bracelet. I've got this other one I had bought. I bought a bracelet, I think off Etsy or something years ago. And then it broke. So I took all the beads off of it and I made a new bracelet that looked completely different than the one that I bought. And it's made with garnets. I guess that's all I have in here. But like I said, I had some other stuff that I made for people a few years ago. And I don't have them anymore because I gave them away. But it was probably some people I used to work with. Like I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. At least 5. I made like at least 5 things. A combination of like bracelets and earrings, all different than the ones I just showed. Oh, I did make 6 now that I think of it. There was a 6th one. And I used to have a passion for it, but it takes a long time. It takes fucking hours sometimes. Actually, no, I just remembered. I made 7. I made 7 different things that I don't have anymore. But anyway, I still have some of that material. And it's like, if I could find a way, like that's the problem. I have no way to film doing it. But if I could find a way to film doing that and also have content like that on here, I want to have different stuff. Like we're creative with sound, with instruments, and then we can be almost like art class, you know, creative with jewelry making. And the cool thing about this kind of jewelry that I just showed poorly is that it's something that just about anybody can get into. It doesn't take a lot of high-level skill or a whole lot of equipment. Basically, like 2 pairs of pliers, 2 different styles of pliers, and then like a pair of like snips to cut some of the wires, and then just buying the components. And you can buy those components. I want to say most towns and definitely cities would have some kind of local store that would sell that stuff. They're beading components, but there's a big difference between like your cheap ass junk shit beaded bracelet that seems to be a popular thing. I feel like I've seen a lot of people with like a beaded bracelet that they probably didn't make. They probably bought it off the internet for way too much money. They probably paid like $100 for something that should have cost like $5. But a lot of those beaded bracelets will have, they're like a stretch bracelet. It's stretchy and you just slide it on and it's like, oh, that's so cool. Those things are trash tier, junk. That stretch cord is just like a chintzy ass shit elastic cord, or sometimes it's some kind of stretchy rubber, and it just breaks after a while. It's like the kind of thing you'd buy at the dollar store. Whereas the stuff that I got into making, you make with high quality braided wire, then the wire is sleeved in a plastic coating so that it doesn't oxidize and rust and degrade. And you've got this high quality metal braided wire that's like the structure holding the bracelet together. Or like the other ones I showed, they're literally held together with metal rings, like chainmail, you know? Like this one here. These are all, it was just a big bag of metal silver rings. And you can buy them in like, you can buy sterling, like silver plated rings, gold plated rings. I think you can buy copper, stainless steel. You can get all these different types of metals with different coatings on them. Like it's not going to be solid gold or solid silver. That, I mean, maybe somewhere you could find that, but not at a typical like beading supply place. But even still, that stuff's a little more money because it's got real gold or silver on it. But you get all these different types of metal, and they're just a bag of rings, but they're split rings. The ring has a little split in it so that you can bend it with pliers, and then you just take so many rings and you like link them together until you've created what looks almost like a little metal flower, and you put the bead in it and you wrap the bead in the metal rings, and then you link them together with another ring, and then you just rinse and repeat that for like an hour until you've got this chain that's filled with beads. And then you put clasps on the end, and you can go to either an online shop or you can go to a local store. There's a store not too far from here I went to a couple times actually, where I bought gemstone beads. It was fucking cool. You go in there and there's like a wall, like a whole fucking wall of the store is nothing but fucking beads that are hanging on a string, it almost looks like a fucking bracelet. And they're just hanging from a string that's maybe like a foot long, maybe 12 inches long or so. And it's just covered in beads. And it's got a price tag on it. And you buy that, and like there's your beads for your project. And they're color coded in the store, so it's like there's gonna be like purples and greens and, you know, oranges and yellows and reds, all like categorized. And when you're in that section that has, they're real gemstones, they're real minerals. And so you might find like a whole bunch of different sizes and qualities of amethyst for the purple ones. And, you know, depending on how high quality that amethyst is, it's potentially going to be kind of expensive. And some of them are cut into like really pretty, like they're polished into look spheres, while others might be more in a crystal shape. And then you've got like, you know, jade and what is that called? Moonstone and lapis lazuli and garnets and tiger's eyes and all that stuff. Quartz, all the different citrine. And then you can buy all these different gemstone beads and all these different colors. And then they'll also have glass beads in their own standalone section, or wooden beads, or beads made out of like mother of pearl, like from shells. And then there will be another section in the store that is like cases and cases, like glass cases, almost like in a jewelry store. But the glass cases are all filled with different like clasps and connectors for the ends of bracelets, for example, or with charms. You can put little charms on something, or you might buy a little charm or a little trinket styled object to make earrings. Like I have a pair of earrings here that I didn't make. I bought these. But you could make something kind of like this, I would imagine, by buying some different charms. I did put the clasp on the end, I believe. The little hook for your ear. I think I put that on there. I think I had to put a different hook on it to fit in my ears. But I have these moon ones. And I bought those. But that's the kind of thing that you could make, potentially. And it's just like cases of all these like different components and pieces. And it's overwhelming. It's like, oh my God, like I want all of this stuff. Holy shit, this is all so cool. And they'll be categorized by the metal they're made of. There might be a whole case that's filled with gold, another whole case filled with silver, another whole case filled with, I think like nickel. I think it's called nickel. And just all these different materials. And it's a beading store. And when you look up what people can do with some of that shit, it's way, way beyond my skill level. Way beyond it. The things I do are just really simplistic. But you can get so deep into that shit. And you'll see a creation that somebody made with like beads or with wires. And you're like, how is that even possible? How the fuck? I've seen some people make like wired jewelry where it's just wire, like long pieces of wire that they wrap in a very specific way to make an extremely elaborate object. And it looks impossible. and it probably takes years of experience and practice to do that. Whereas the stuff I do here, you could make some nice pieces probably your first day. And it's not going to come out as well your first day. I haven't done it enough to be very good at it, and I haven't done it in a couple of years now. But I like the idea of getting back into it and trying to find some way to make some videos with it on here. But I don't see that happening extremely soon. I would need like a better workspace and more equipment and more lights and probably another camera and a better computer. Like so much shit, dude. But in the future, it's one of the things I've been thinking about is like adding additional content. I don't want this channel to be just one thing. Oh, I just play games on here. That's all we do. It's like, no, we do a variety of things on here. And it's what I feel like doing. And I probably will be going back to playing a game soon. I was actually going to do one today, but I had such an interest in doing something with my instruments I'm like, I want to take advantage of this feeling while I have it and try to find some way to incorporate it into my next video, even if it's done poorly and it's not ideal. You know, you could go online, you can go on YouTube right now and find probably hundreds or thousands of people doing it a fucking 1,000 times better than me. They've got the perfect setup. They've got probably $1 million worth of fucking equipment. And like, it looks like they're in a fucking professional studio. And you're going to have a better time watching those videos. But I still wanted to do something with it. And I want to do more with it in the future. Right? We did that little bit with the book. I might do more of that sort of thing. You know, read little bits of these books here and there. I don't have a whole shit ton of them, but maybe I take a look at a few more. Like, I have some books I haven't read yet. Maybe I fucking bust one open and we'll read it for the first time together. Or like at least a part of it. I'm not going to read a whole lot of it. And some of this stuff, you know, it's like, it wears you out after a while. It's like, okay, I've had enough. I mentioned it in the beginning of my video. Sometimes I get annoyed when writers get too wordy about something. And I'm more interested in facts, is what I'm interested in. I started looking at this book here before I decided on a chapter I wanted to read. And I was like, it was like irritating me, you know? This book proposes a new perspective that our current theories of the physical world don't work and can never be made to work until they account for life and consciousness. This book proposes that rather than a belated and minor outcome after billions of years of lifeless physical processes, life and consciousness are absolutely fundamental to our understanding of the universe. We call this new perspective biocentrism. And right, you've got to write something like that for a book released to the public. But like at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't need that part. What is it? Is it real? Does it work? Give me the spec sheet, and then I'll be on my way. I get irritated sometimes when people write too much. And I, like anybody that does anything, they want to do it at like the highest level that they can. And then it ends up coming across as like kind of cocky, and like they think like really highly of themselves. And I see this like most prominently anytime I read any fucking article. Dude, it's like every article I read, it's like, it's got so much filler because they want to sound smart. And it's like, I'm not impressed. I'm just pissed off, and I don't want to read the fucking article. Like you start seeing these patterns in the way that people write. You can tell like this person's a writer. They went to school for this. And they followed the rules, and they got a good grade in class, and now they're a smart writer. And they all come across like that every time I read any fucking article anywhere. It irritates me. But I get it. You can't just have every single thing that you read be like just a spec sheet. You know, you could go read a science journal for something that's more like that, I suppose. But when it's something that's written for like your average person, I think they want it like that. Or at least they're expecting it to be more like that. I'm assuming. And sometimes it's just like the mood I'm in, or where I am currently in my life. But sometimes, man, I don't know, it bothers me. Everything bothers me sometimes. Everything. You know, being alive. Life, people. I get so impatient. I'll finish eating And then I'll bring my dishes up to the sink and I'll have like a bowl. I eat oatmeal a lot. Like oatmeal with old-fashioned oats. Not instant oatmeal. Instant oatmeal isn't really healthy. It's not really that good for you. It has a lot of sugar in it. And because the oats are basically powdered, it makes you fatter much more easily if you eat a lot of that. Because your body like metabolizes that like powdered, ultra refined oatmeal like really fast. And it's, from my understanding, it's easier to put on a little weight if you eat a lot of that stuff. But if you get old-fashioned oats, so just rolled oats is all they are. You know, you get just like a bottle of rolled oats, and then you just cook that, and then you add what you want to add to it. That's healthier. And so I eat a lot of it because it's cheap. It's really cheap, and I find that I can stomach eating that every day. It's like a cheap food source, and I enjoy eating it regularly. And when I get done eating that, like that material from the leftover, like, you know, like it sticks to the bowl. It's sticky, it dries, and it's hard. And so you have to soak it in water. And I put it in the sink, and I fill that bowl up with water so it soaks for a little while before I wash it. And just filling the bowl up with water pisses me off. I'm like, oh my God, dude, fill the fuck up. What are we doing? I've been standing here for 5 seconds. What a waste of my time. Like, that's how I get every day. Every single time I go to put that fucking bowl in the sink, I get pissed off at it because it takes too long to fill it up. I use the microwave a lot to cook my food because like I can't waste hours every day cooking something from scratch. And even then, it's like 3 minutes in the microwave. It's like, come the fuck on. I don't have all fucking day, dude. And like I'm like that with like everything. I get so fucking impatient. But when you stack it, it becomes such a waste of time. I want to make a video. I want to do something creative. I want to do what I'm doing right now. And like, I know that beforehand, it's like, well, I have to look somewhat presentable. I don't want to look like a complete scumfuck. So I make sure that like I trim my facial hair. I make sure that I don't look like a slob. And then like I have to eat first. And like, it's like, well, we're basically throwing away like 2 or 3 hours every fucking day before I can get started. Jesus Christ. And like, I'm eating my food kind of angry. Like I can't believe how long this is taking. By the time I'm done, and then I can't like immediately get to work on what I want to do because like I'm going to have to process the food for a minute. If I just like quick eat something and then try to do a video, the whole fucking time it's going to be affecting my ability to even talk into the microphone. And sometimes that affects me for like 6 fucking hours, dude. I think I have like some kind of medical condition. Actually, speaking of that, I used to think I had some kind of medical condition. And like, I don't want to get too nasty or anything. I'm just going to say I used to get like really bad gas. And I thought I had a medical condition. It was going on for years. And I'm like, there's something wrong with me. And it makes my life miserable. Miserable. And one day, I ran out of, because I was working out a lot. I was going to the gym regularly for years. And one day I ran out of creatine. It's like the thing that everybody says you got to take. You want to be fit, you want to be in shape, like creatine is one of the #1 things you should be taking. All of these fuckheads say that. They all say it. It's one of the best things you can take. It's going to get you to your goals a lot quicker. And it's good for you. And it's affordable. It's not very expensive. And so I used to take it every day. Every day I would take it for years. And one day I ran out and I didn't have a lot of money at the time. So I didn't buy any. I'm like, I'm going to go a little while without this. It sucks. I want to get more, but I can't afford to buy a bottle of it right now. And I suddenly felt better. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together until a couple months later, I got some more creatine. And all of a sudden, all my issues came back. And I was in pain and discomfort, and it was bad. And then I'm like, was it the fucking creatine? What? And so I stopped taking it. I'm like, let's experiment. And I stopped taking it for a couple days. And then suddenly I felt fine. Fine, dude, I felt great. And I realized this creatine was giving me some of the worst like discomfort and gas and odor that I've ever had in my life. And it was affecting me for like 12 hours a day. Like every waking moment was like misery. And I'm like taking the advice from these like fitness pros. It's one of the best things for people to take, and it's so fucking good for you and healthy. And I think about it, and I'm like, I never felt like I was actually like more performant. I never felt like I was in better shape. It didn't seem to do jack shit for me except make my life worse and suck money out of me. I swear to God, dude, there's so many times I'm reading like a fucking article on like a science blog where they're like recommending like some kind of supplement. And I'm like, I start to get this feeling like, are these guys like in cahoots with like the supplement manufacturers? Because I swear to God, they are constantly basically trying to like sell me supplements and shit. This is good for that, and this is, but if you really read like the details on that shit, you find out like they don't really know. They've done study after study after study, and they somehow still don't know. Is it good? Is it bad? Maybe, maybe not. Collagen. You're like taking a collagen supplement. Does that actually help you to feel and look more youthful? Is that going to actually help you to have better skin and better hair and kind of help reverse the effects of aging? Is it going to help give you like stronger like internal support structures? You know, because like a lot of your organs, like there's different types of collagen, and different parts of the body like utilizes different types of collagen. Organs and bones and tissues and skin and hair and nails, all that stuff is like it's utilizing different collagen types. And as you get older, your body stops producing the amount of collagen it needs to maintain like peak efficiency with all of its structures, and like your structures start to degrade. Your face starts to look older. That's like one of the things you notice first. Your face starts basically degrading because you're no longer able to produce enough collagen. And the older you get, the worse it gets. And so you can take collagen supplements. But if you read reports and studies, it's like there's no real proof. There's no final, like, conclusive evidence that it actually helps to take those supplements. It's like, well, maybe. I don't know. We did a test on 1,000 people, and it seemed like maybe it worked, but we're not sure. More studies need to be done. Is basically what it comes to. And then you'll have people say like, yeah, well, it can't work because your body would break down those materials before. Your body breaks it down when you digest it. It's not just moving collagen into your fucking skin. Like your body breaks all that shit down into the like raw materials. But then it's like, well, then how the fuck's my body getting it? Like how the fuck does eating anything do anything for you then? Like I feel like there's maybe a kind of an in-between there. Like if some cultures that eat a lot of collagen-based foods generally have a more of a youthful appearance, and they have younger looking skin. You know, like a lot of Asian cultures that live near coastal areas that eat a lot of fish and seafood, essentially, often will have a much younger and more youthful appearance, and their skin looks a lot nicer. And there's a lot of collagen in those food sources. So there's kind of some evidence there, without doing a big study, that maybe it does work. And you see shit like that everywhere, where you never get like conclusive answers and evidence that something is actually helpful. Vitamin C, using vitamin C on your face. Like, it's marketed as being beneficial, but then there's evidence that like, well, it oxidizes before it can be beneficial. Like, on paper, yeah, it would be, like in a lab setting, in a controlled environment, but it oxidizes on your face so quickly that it basically negates any positive effect it would have. But it's like, well, is that proven 100%? And like, it's like you can never get the facts that you want to make a fucking decision about anything ever. Some things are supposedly good for you, and then also they're not. I use not collagen. I use retinol on my skin. And I used to use vitamin C, but I can't afford it. You know, that shit, all those skincare products are so fucking expensive. But retinol is one of the like proven beneficial substances that you can put on your skin to help it retain some youthfulness. Because like, I don't want to get like, I'd like to slow down the effects of aging, you know? I don't want to look like I'm 75. I'm not 75, but I'm getting there. And retinol really works. It does. But you have to use it every day. And what it does is it essentially causes your skin to like replace itself more quickly. Because like your skin is constantly like dying and then being replaced with new skin. There's like all these layers. And they move from like the bottom up, essentially, is how I understand it. And like the outside layers start to die. And then the layers below that begin to rise to the surface and replace those dying layers. And there's a natural process that's just constantly occurring, where like the outside of your body is basically dying, and then it's being replaced from within, like at all times. Your whole body does that, right? Your whole body, parts of your body are dying constantly, and then it's being replaced. And it's kind of weird when you think about it, because it's like, well, how much of you is not what you were before, you know? Like, it's like you're not the same person. Like, at some point, you're going to be basically a completely new being because like your entire cellular structure has replaced itself over many years. And it's kind of like analogous maybe to I don't know if analogous is the right word, to the idea like in Star Trek that when you go through the transporter, you're not the same person when you get transported to another destination due to the way that it deconstructs your body and rebuilds it with the transportation system. So basically like you're like dead, killed, and then reborn or something. I think there's something like that in Star Trek lore and maybe that's why some people have like a fear of the transporter, because it's almost like you're not the same person when you come out the other end, technically, scientifically. But retinol and the way that the skin like regenerates, retinol essentially, from my understanding, is it just speeds up the natural regeneration rapidly speeds it up. And it becomes so rapid that it starts to replace the skin prematurely. And so the skin that arises to the surface is younger, more youthful skin. It's rising to the surface to replace your external skin more quickly than it normally would. And if you do it enough times, over and over and over and over, and you're putting it on your face every day for fucking years, eventually that outer layer is much younger and smoother and more youthful, because you've now gotten to the point where that youthful younger skin is moving to the surface much more quickly and like completely. So it's more sensitive. It's more sensitive. So you have to just be careful. It's easier to like scratch yourself. It feels more sensitive. But then the other thing is, your skin is always fucking like shedding. Like you'll have to exfoliate your face all the time. If you use a washcloth and kind of scrub your face, it gets real shiny and it looks way younger. And you're like, damn. But like a day or two later, you'll like itch your eye and it'll just like be like all this skin will just like fucking peel and roll off your fucking face, is what happens. And it's kind of nasty. So you've got to like take care of that all the time. And it's probably why my face itches all the fucking time, because my skin's always fucking shedding. But that's one of those things that really works. And it's worked. Like people use it for acne because it helps with resurfacing their skin. But it also has the benefit of helping just with like older aging skin. So like it has multiple benefits. It can be used for multiple applications. And you can get retinol products for not a lot of money. But you can also get them for a shit ton of money. And you can get retinol products that require a prescription from a doctor, and you have to go to a dermatologist. But you can also get over-the-counter stuff that's not as potent, but does the same exact fucking thing. It just takes longer. You're never going to get an immediate result from something like that. It's a lifestyle change. You just use it every day from now on. The end. Anyway, I don't want to just talk about that for the rest of my video. So I think I'll end it here because it seems like I've run out of thread. So I'll stop it. We'll come back with something new next time, and maybe some more audio equipment. Because like I have that Lyra 8 I mentioned. I want to use that on here. I want to get the Lyra 8 hooked up and see if I can do something with that. So look forward to that in my next video. Maybe we'll check out a book. We'll talk about whatever comes to my mind. And then I think we'll check out some audio equipment and fuck around with some, I don't know, you call it sound design, sound art. It's like art class with sound. So until then, if I get my mouse working here, goodbye.